The elevator doors opened to the penthouse, and Thomas Bradford's heart stopped. The silence was wrong. Usually, his 6-year-old daughter Sophie would be at the door, chattering about her day, hugging his legs. But today nothing. Just terrible, crushing silence. Sophie? His voice cracked. He dropped his briefcase and ran through the apartment. Her bedroom was empty, bed neatly made. The playroom untouched. Kitchen vacant. His hands shook as he checked every closet, every bathroom, every possible hiding spot. Sophie? Baby, where are you? The nanny, Mrs. Peterson, should have been here. He called her number. It went straight to voicemail. Cold fear flooded his chest. He dialed 911, then stopped. Wait. Check the building first. Maybe she went to a neighbor. Maybe this was nothing. But his gut screamed that something was terribly wrong. Thomas ran down 20 flights of stairs, too panicked to wait for the elevator. The doorman James looked up in surprise. Mr. Bradford, is everything okay? Have you seen Sophie? My daughter? Did she come through here? James's face went pale. About 30 minutes ago, sir. She walked out alone. I called up to your apartment but got no answer. I was about to check the cameras. Which way did she go? East, toward the park. Thomas bolted onto the street. The October evening was cold, darkness settling over the city. His little girl was out here somewhere, alone. She was only 6. She didn't know about traffic or strangers or danger. She trusted everyone. God, why had he been late today? Why hadn't he come home on time? He ran down the sidewalk, searching every face, every doorway. 2 blocks felt like 2 miles. His lungs burned. Then he saw her. Sophie sat on the cold concrete sidewalk, leaning against a woman wrapped in a tattered blue blanket. The woman had her arm around Sophie, who was crying softly. Relief and confusion crashed over Thomas in equal measure. He rushed toward them and the woman looked up. Despite her situation, despite the dirt on her face and the worn state of her clothes, her eyes were kind. She was a beautiful African-American woman, probably in her early 30s, with natural hair pulled back and a gentle expression. Sophie. Thomas dropped to his knees beside his daughter, pulling her into his arms. She clung to him, her small body shaking. Daddy, I was lost. I couldn't find you. Sophie buried her face in his chest. I'm here now, baby. I'm here. Thomas held her tight, then looked at the woman. What happened? Is she hurt? The woman shook her head, her voice soft but steady. She's okay. I found her about 20 minutes ago. She was crying and saying she couldn't find her way home. I stayed with her, kept her warm, made sure she was safe. Thomas's throat tightened. This stranger, who clearly had so little, had protected his daughter. Thank you. God, thank you so much. I don't know what would have happened if... Don't think about that. The woman smiled gently at Sophie. She's brave. She did good staying in one place instead of wandering further. Sophie lifted her head. Miss Violet sang to me. She made me feel better. Violet. The woman had a name, a kind face, a gentle way about her. Thomas noticed her hands were rough from cold, her clothes too thin for the weather. She lived on this street. The realization hit him hard. Please let me repay you. Thomas reached for his wallet. Let me help you. Violet hesitated, then nodded slowly. I appreciate that. Thank you. Her acceptance was quiet, dignified. She didn't refuse or make excuses. She simply accepted help when it was offered, and Thomas respected that. He pulled out several $100 bills. This isn't enough. It's not nearly enough for what you did. But please take it. And let me get you somewhere warm tonight. A hotel, food, whatever you need. Violet's eyes glistened. You don't have to do that. I want to. Please. You saved my daughter. Let me do this. Thomas stood, still holding Sophie. There's a decent hotel 3 blocks from here. Let me take you there, get you a room. Violet gathered her few belongings into a small backpack and folded the blue blanket. Okay. Thank you. I won't forget this kindness. They walked together to the hotel, Sophie holding both their hands. Thomas got Violet a room for a week, paid in advance, and made sure she had money for food. At the hotel entrance, Sophie hugged Violet tight. Will I see you again, Miss Violet? Violet looked at Thomas, uncertainty in her eyes. He nodded immediately. Yes, sweetheart. We'll come back tomorrow. After getting Sophie home and settled with emergency babysitter, Thomas sat in his study, mind racing. Mrs. Peterson called, apologetic and panicked. Her mother had a heart attack and she'd rushed to the hospital, her phone dying in the chaos. She hadn't meant to leave Sophie alone. Thomas forgave her instantly. These things happened. What mattered was that Sophie was safe, thanks to a homeless woman with nothing who still chose kindness. Thomas made a decision right then. He would help Violet. Really help her. Not just a hotel room and some cash. He would find out what she needed to get back on her feet, and he would make sure she got it. Because today this woman had saved the most precious thing in his world. And Thomas Bradford always repaid his debts. But as he thought about Violet's gentle eyes and the way Sophie had trusted her so completely, he wondered if this might become something more than a debt. Something important. Something that could change all their lives. Tomorrow he would start finding out. Have you ever met someone who changed your entire life in a single moment? Someone whose simple act of kindness made you see the world differently? If this story touches your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced unexpected kindness from a stranger? Let us know below. Thomas barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sophie on that cold sidewalk. But he also saw Violet's kind face, heard her gentle voice comforting his frightened daughter. By morning he'd made several decisions. Sophie woke up clingy and anxious. Thomas held her during breakfast, promising he'd never be late again. "Can we see Miss Violet today?" Sophie asked, her little hand gripping his shirt. "That's exactly what we're going to do." Thomas smiled. "We're going to bring her breakfast and see how she's doing." They stopped at Sophie's favorite bakery and bought fresh croissants, fruit, coffee, and juice. Then they headed to the hotel. Thomas texted the number he'd gotten for Violet last night, letting her know they were coming. Violet met them in the hotel lobby, and Thomas was struck by the change. She'd showered and wore the same clothes, now clean. Her natural hair was styled simply, and without the dirt and exhaustion, she was stunning. Sophie ran to her immediately. "Miss Violet, we brought breakfast." "That's so sweet of you both." Violet hugged Sophie, then met Thomas's eyes over his daughter's head. "Thank you for coming back. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Thomas gestured to the hotel restaurant. "Can we sit and talk? I'd like to hear more about your story if you're comfortable sharing." They settled into a booth, Sophie between them, happily eating a chocolate croissant. Violet sipped coffee like it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. "I was a teacher," Violet began, her voice steady but sad. "Elementary school, 2nd grade. I loved it. Loved the kids, loved seeing them learn and grow." "What happened?" Thomas asked gently. "The school had budget cuts 2 years ago. Newer teachers got let go. I couldn't find another teaching position. The jobs weren't there. I had some savings, but rent in this city is expensive." Violet paused, gathering herself. "I fell behind. Got evicted. Tried living in my car, but it broke down and I couldn't afford repairs. After that, it just got harder and harder." Thomas's heart ached. This wasn't a story of bad choices or laziness. This was what happened when good people hit hard times and had no safety net. "I tried shelters, but they're always full or unsafe. I did odd jobs when I could find them. Mostly, I just tried to survive day by day." Violet looked at Sophie. "When I saw this little one crying on the sidewalk, I couldn't just walk by. I know what it's like to be scared and alone." Sophie leaned against Violet's arm. "You made me feel safe. You're a natural with children." Thomas's mind was already working. "Have you thought about getting back into teaching?" "Every day. But I'd need to update my credentials, pay for clearances again. It's expensive. And I'd need an address, clean clothes for interviews." Violet's shoulders sagged slightly. "It feels impossible sometimes." "What if it wasn't impossible?" Thomas leaned forward. "What if you had help? What if you had a place to stay, clothes, resources to get your credentials updated?" Violet's eyes widened. "Mr. Bradford, you already helped so much." "Thomas. Please call me Thomas." He smiled. "And I want to help more. You saved Sophie. You showed her kindness when you had every reason to focus only on yourself. Let me return that kindness." "I don't understand what you're offering." Thomas took a breath. "I need someone to help with Sophie. A tutor, a nanny, someone patient and kind. Someone she trusts. My regular nanny is wonderful, but she's getting older and wants to retire. I think you'd be perfect for the job." Violet stared at him. "You want to hire me? But you barely know me. I know you protected my daughter. I know she trusts you. That's enough for me." Thomas kept his voice calm, professional. "I have a guest house on my property. You could live there rent-free. I'd pay you a good salary, help you get your teaching credentials updated, provide everything you need. In exchange, you'd work with Sophie, teach her, watch her when I'm at work." "Daddy, can Miss Violet really stay with us?" Sophie's face lit up. "Please?" Violet's eyes filled with tears. "Thomas, I don't know what to say. This is so much more than I expected." Say yes. Thomas smiled. Please. Let me help you. You deserve a chance to get back on your feet, and Sophie deserves someone like you in her life. Violet wiped her eyes, then nodded slowly. A smile broke across her face, genuine and relieved. Yes. Thank you. I accept. I'll work hard, I promise. I'll be the best tutor and nanny Sophie could have. I know you will. Thomas felt something warm settle in his chest. How about we go shopping today? Get you some clothes, things you need. Then we'll get you moved into the guest house. They spent the afternoon shopping. Violet was modest in her choices, picking practical items until Thomas insisted she get things she actually wanted, not just needed. Sophie helped pick out a beautiful green sweater that made Violet's eyes shine. By evening they were at Thomas's estate. The guest house was small but comfortable, with a bedroom, bathroom, and sitting area. Violet stood in the doorway taking it all in. I have a home, she whispered. I have a real home again. Sophie hugged her waist. You're part of our family now, Miss Violet. Thomas watched them, feeling something shift in his life. For 3 years since his wife died, he'd been going through the motions. Working, caring for Sophie, existing but not really living. Now, watching his daughter beam at this woman who'd shown up in their lives so unexpectedly, he felt hope stirring. Violet turned to him, gratitude shining in her expression. Thank you, Thomas. I won't let you down. You already haven't. Thomas smiled. Welcome to your new life, Violet. Welcome home. That night, after Sophie was asleep and Violet was settled in the guest house, Thomas sat on his porch. The October air was crisp and cool. He thought about chance meetings, about kindness, about how one moment could redirect everything. He'd offered Violet a job and a home. But somehow he suspected she was going to give him and Sophie something much more valuable in return. He wasn't sure what yet. But he felt it coming, like the first hint of spring after a long winter. Something was beginning. Something good. Violet's first week as Sophie's tutor and nanny exceeded every expectation Thomas had. She was patient, creative, and genuinely invested in his daughter's happiness and growth. Sophie bloomed under her attention. Thomas would come home from work to find them in the playroom, doing art projects or reading together. Or in the garden, Violet teaching Sophie about plants and nature. Or in the kitchen, making healthy snacks while discussing math through measuring ingredients. Miss Violet makes learning fun, Sophie told him one evening. She doesn't make me sit still all the time. We move and play and I still learn stuff. That night, Thomas knocked on the guest house door. Violet answered, now comfortable in casual clothes, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked relaxed and happy. Thomas, hi. Is everything okay? Everything's great. I just wanted to check in, see how you're settling. Thomas handed her an envelope. Your first week's salary. Violet opened it and her eyes went wide. Thomas, this is too much. It's exactly what you're worth. You're doing an incredible job with Sophie. He smiled. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something else. You mentioned wanting to update your teaching credentials. Yes, eventually. When I save up enough. What if we did it now? I could pay for the courses and clearances. You could study in the evenings after Sophie's in bed. Thomas saw her hesitation. Think of it as an investment. The better qualified you are, the more you can teach Sophie and the more valuable you'll be long-term. Violet bit her lip, considering. You really believe in me, don't you? I do. I see how you are with Sophie. You're a born educator. Thomas kept his tone professional, but he meant every word. Let me help you reach your potential. Okay. Violet nodded, accepting. Yes, thank you. I'll study hard and make sure I pass everything with top scores. I know you will. Over the next few weeks, Thomas set up everything Violet needed. Online courses, books, study materials. She would spend her evenings at the kitchen table, studying while Thomas worked in his home office nearby. Sometimes he'd bring her coffee. Sometimes they'd end up talking about their days. He learned more about her life. She'd grown up in a small town, raised by her grandmother after her parents died in a car accident. Her grandmother passed away right before Violet lost her job, leaving her with no family safety net. She'd been alone in the world until now. What about you? Violet asked one evening. You've been so generous with me, but I don't know much about your story. Thomas set down his coffee. My wife Lauren died 3 years ago. Cancer. It was fast and brutal. Sophie was only 3, too young to really understand. He paused, old grief surfacing. I threw myself into work afterward. Sophie had nannies, the best care money could buy. But I was just existing, not living. I'm sorry. That must have been so hard. It was. Still is sometimes. Thomas looked at her. But lately things feel lighter. Sophie's happier than she's been in years. The house feels like a home again. That's because of you, Violet. She smiled softly. You and Sophie have given me my life back. It's mutual. Thomas realized he looked forward to these evening conversations. Violet was easy to talk to, thoughtful and kind. She didn't judge his grief or try to fix him. She just listened and shared her own experiences. It was comfortable. Nice. One Saturday morning, Sophie burst into Thomas's bedroom at dawn. Daddy, can we take Miss Violet somewhere fun today? She never leaves the house except for errands. Thomas realized Sophie was right. Violet worked constantly, either with Sophie or studying. She needed a break, needed to enjoy life a little. That's a great idea. Let's take her to the aquarium. You love the aquarium. They surprised Violet at breakfast with the plan. She tried to protest, saying she had studying to do, but Thomas insisted. You need a day off. Everyone does. Come on, it'll be fun. Violet gave in with a laugh. Okay. The aquarium sounds wonderful. She wore the green sweater from their shopping trip and jeans. Simple, but she looked beautiful. Thomas noticed and quickly looked away, confused by the observation. She was his employee. Sophie's nanny. He shouldn't be noticing how pretty she was. But he did notice. He couldn't help it. The aquarium was crowded with families. Sophie dragged them from exhibit to exhibit, chattering excitedly. Violet laughed at the penguins, was mesmerized by the jellyfish, and loved the touch tank where Sophie could pet rays and small sharks. I haven't done something like this in years, Violet admitted as they watched the big tank. I forgot how good it feels to just enjoy something. You deserve enjoyment, Thomas said. You've been through a lot. You should have fun too, not just work all the time. I like working with Sophie. It doesn't feel like work. Still, everyone needs balance. They grabbed lunch at the aquarium cafe. Sophie sat between them, talking nonstop about fish. Violet engaged with every comment, never dismissing or getting tired of the 6-year-old's energy. Thomas watched them together and felt his chest tighten with an emotion he couldn't quite name. On the way home, Sophie fell asleep in the car. Violet turned in her seat to make sure she was comfortable, adjusting the seatbelt. She's amazing, Violet said softly. You're raising an incredible little girl, Thomas. You're part of that now. She's different since you came. Happier. More confident. He glanced at her. Thank you for that. I should be thanking you. Every single day. Violet looked out the window. A few weeks ago, I was sleeping on the street, wondering if I'd make it through winter. Now I have a home, a job I love, a future again. That's because you chose to help me instead of just walking away after that first night. You gave me back my daughter's smile. That's worth everything to me. Something passed between them in that moment. A connection, a recognition. They both felt it, though neither said anything more. That night, Thomas lay in bed thinking about the day. About Violet's laugh at the penguin exhibit. About the way she made Sophie feel heard and valued. About how natural it felt, the three of them together. He told himself it was just gratitude. Just appreciation for a good employee who was also a good person. But deep down he knew it was more than that. Something was growing, something he wasn't ready to name yet. Downstairs, Violet sat in the guest house, looking at her study materials but not really seeing them. She was thinking about Thomas's kindness, his patience with Sophie, the way his whole face softened when he looked at his daughter. She was thinking about how safe she felt here, how much she was starting to care about this little family. It scared her a little. She couldn't afford to mess this up by developing feelings for her employer. But feelings didn't ask permission. They just grew like plants reaching for sunlight. Both of them went to sleep that night thinking about each other, neither quite ready to admit what was happening. But it was happening. Slowly, carefully, something beautiful was beginning to bloom. October turned to November. Violet continued excelling in her role with Sophie, and the little girl was thriving. Her reading improved dramatically. She started showing interest in science, asking questions about how things worked. Violet nurtured every curiosity, turning everyday moments into learning opportunities. Thomas found himself coming home earlier from work, wanting to be part of whatever project Violet and Sophie were doing. He'd loosen his tie and sit on the floor, helping build volcanoes for science experiments or acting out historical events Violet was teaching. "You're good at this," Violet told him one afternoon. They were making solar system models out of papier-mâché, paint covering all three of them. "I'm just following your lead." Thomas carefully painted Jupiter. "You make everything seem possible. That's a gift." Violet blushed. "I just love teaching. And Sophie makes it easy. She's so eager to learn." Mrs. Peterson officially retired that week, stopping by to say goodbye. She pulled Thomas aside, eyes twinkling. "That young woman is good for you both," she said. "Don't let her go." "I won't," Thomas assured her. "She's family now." But even as he said it, Thomas knew family wasn't quite the right word. Not anymore. His feelings for Violet were becoming harder to ignore. The way his heart jumped when she smiled. How he looked forward to their evening conversations. The protective surge he felt whenever she mentioned her past struggles. He was falling for her. Slowly, steadily, undeniably. One evening, Sophie was at a sleepover with a friend from her old school. Thomas and Violet found themselves alone in the main house. Violet had come to return some books, and somehow they ended up sitting in the living room talking. "Tell me about your dreams," Thomas said. "What did you want to do before everything fell apart?" Violet curled up in the armchair, thoughtful. "I wanted to open a learning center. Not a regular school, but a place for kids who struggle. Kids from tough backgrounds or with learning differences. Somewhere they could get individual attention and support." Her eyes lit up as she spoke. "I wanted it to be free or low cost so money wouldn't be a barrier." "That's beautiful." Thomas leaned forward. "What would you need to make that happen?" "More than I have." Violet laughed softly. "A building, funding, teachers, supplies. It's a big dream. Maybe too big." "No dream is too big if you're willing to work for it." Thomas paused. "What if I helped? What if we started planning it?" Violet's eyes widened. "Thomas, you've already done so much. And I want to do more. This matters to you, and I think it would matter to the community. Kids need places like what you're describing." He smiled. "Let me invest in this dream. Please." Violet stood, pacing. "I can't ask you to do that. It's too much." "You're not asking. I'm offering. There's a difference." Thomas stood too, moving closer. "Violet, you've brought light back into this house. Into our lives. You've given Sophie confidence and joy. You've given me hope. Let me help you build something that will do the same for other kids." She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Why are you so good to me?" "Because you deserve it. Because I believe in you. Because—" Thomas stopped himself, not ready to say the rest. "Because—" Violet whispered. The moment stretched between them. Thomas wanted to close the distance, wanted to tell her what he was feeling. But fear held him back. What if she didn't feel the same? What if he ruined everything by admitting his growing feelings? "Because you're important to us," he finished softly. "To both of us." Violet nodded slowly, accepting his words even though they both knew there was more left unsaid. "Okay. Let's plan the learning center. Together." They spent the next hour sketching out ideas. What the center would offer, who it would serve, how it would operate. Violet's passion was contagious, and Thomas found himself excited about the project in a way he hadn't been excited about anything in years. When Violet finally left for the guest house, Thomas stood at the window watching her go. He'd almost said it tonight. Almost told her he was falling in love with her. But the timing wasn't right yet. He needed to be sure she felt the same, needed to know it wouldn't complicate their situation or make her uncomfortable. But soon. Soon he would tell her. In the guest house, Violet lay in bed replaying the conversation. Thomas had almost said something more, she was certain of it. And the way he'd looked at her, the way his voice softened when he spoke to her, it made her heart race. She was falling for him. She tried to keep professional boundaries. But Thomas made it impossible. He was kind without being condescending. Generous without expecting anything in return. Patient with Sophie and thoughtful with her. He was everything she'd ever wanted in a partner. But he was also her employer. The man who'd saved her from the streets. She couldn't risk this job, this home, this new life by admitting feelings that might not be returned. So she would wait. She would keep being the best nanny and tutor she could be. She would help with the learning center and be grateful for his friendship. And she would hope that maybe someday he might see her as more than just the woman he'd helped. Both of them lay awake that night, thinking of each other, wanting more but afraid to reach for it. Time, however, has a way of pushing people together when they're meant to be. And time was on their side. Thanksgiving arrived, and Thomas insisted Violet join them for the holiday. "You're part of our family," he said firmly when she tried to decline. "We want you here." They spent the day cooking together, Sophie helping in ways that made the meal take twice as long but 3 times as fun. Violet taught them old recipes her grandmother used to make. Thomas shared stories about Thanksgivings past, including funny ones about his late wife that made Sophie giggle. "Mama would have liked you," Sophie told Violet seriously as they set the table. "She liked nice people." Violet knelt down to Sophie's level. I wish I could have met her. She made you, so she must have been pretty wonderful. She was. Sophie hugged Violet. But I'm glad you're here now. Thomas watched from the doorway, his heart full. Sophie was healing. They all were. Dinner was warm and comfortable. They said what they were thankful for. Sophie was thankful for Miss Violet and her daddy and her new fish in the aquarium tank Thomas had installed. Thomas was thankful for family, for second chances, for unexpected blessings. He looked at Violet when he said it. Violet was thankful for kindness, for hope, for people who believed in her when she'd stopped believing in herself. After Sophie went to bed, full of pie and sleepy, Thomas and Violet cleaned up together. They moved around the kitchen in easy synchronization, comfortable with each other now. Today was perfect, Violet said, drying dishes. Thank you for including me. Where else would you be? Thomas rinsed a plate. You belong here. Do I? Violet's voice was soft. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life now. I keep thinking I'll wake up back on that cold sidewalk. Thomas set down the dish and turned to her. This is real. You're safe. You're home. I promise. She met his eyes and something shifted. The air between them felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. Thomas? She started, then stopped. Violet, I need to tell you something. Thomas dried his hands, gathering courage. These past couple months having you here, it's changed everything. Sophie is happier, yes. But so am I. More than I've been in years. I'm happy too, Violet whispered. I look forward to seeing you every day. Not just because you're wonderful with Sophie, though you are. But because I like being around you. I like talking to you. I like the way you see the world, the way you make everything feel brighter. Thomas took a breath. I'm falling in love with you, Violet. I know this might complicate things, and if you don't feel the same, I understand. But I had to tell you the truth. Violet's eyes filled with tears. You're falling in love with me? I am. Completely. Thomas stepped closer. But there's no pressure. If you want to keep things professional, we can. Your job is safe no matter what. I just needed you to know how I feel. Violet laughed through her tears. Thomas, I've been falling for you too. For weeks now. I tried not to because I didn't want to mess up this amazing thing I have here. But the truth is, you make me feel things I didn't think I'd ever feel. You're kind and patient, and you see me. Really see me. Not the homeless woman you helped, but me. Violet. I do see you. Thomas cupped her face gently. Can I kiss you? Please, she breathed. Their first kiss was soft and sweet, full of promise and hope. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. This feels right, Violet said. It does. Thomas held her close. We'll take things slow. Figure it out as we go. Sophie comes first for both of us. Always, Violet agreed. They stood in the kitchen holding each other, the dishwater growing cold, neither wanting to let go. This was what happiness felt like. This warmth, this rightness, this perfect fit of two people who'd found each other when they needed it most. Over the next few weeks, they dated quietly. Dinners after Sophie was asleep. Walks in the garden. Long conversations about everything and nothing. They kept it private, wanting to be sure before they told Sophie or anyone else. The Learning Center project moved forward. Thomas found a perfect building, an old community center that had closed down. It needed work, but the bones were solid. Violet spent hours designing the space, planning curriculum, dreaming out loud while Thomas listened and supported every idea. We could have a library here, she said, pointing at blueprints. And this room could be for art projects. This one for science experiments. What about music? Thomas suggested. Kids need creative outlets. Yes. Music and movement. Maybe drama too. Violet's eyes shone. This is really happening, isn't it? It is. Thomas kissed her forehead. You're making your dream real. One December evening, Sophie caught them holding hands in the living room. She stopped, eyes wide. Are you guys in love? She asked bluntly. Thomas and Violet looked at each other, then at Sophie. No point in lying. Yes, Thomas said. Is that okay with you? Sophie broke into a huge smile. Are you kidding? This is the best thing ever. Does this mean Miss Violet will stay forever? If she wants to, Thomas said, squeezing Violet's hand. I want to, Violet assured Sophie. If you want me to. Sophie launched herself at them both, hugging them tight. I want you to be my new mama. Can she, Daddy? Can Miss Violet be my mama? Thomas looked at Violet, saw the tears and joy in her eyes. That's up to Miss Violet, sweetheart. I would love nothing more, Violet said, voice thick with emotion. But you already had a mama who loved you very much. I'm not trying to replace her. You're not replacing, Sophie said wisely. You're adding. Mama would want me to have someone who loves me. And you love me, right? So much, Violet whispered. So much. Then you're my new mama. Sophie said it with such certainty that both adults laughed through their tears. That night, after Sophie finally went to sleep, Thomas and Violet sat on the porch despite the cold. Are you sure about this? Violet asked. It's happening fast. When something is right, it's right. Doesn't matter how fast. Thomas wrapped a blanket around them both. I love you, Violet. I want a future with you. I love you too. She leaned into him. This time last year I was alone and scared and hopeless. Now I have everything I ever wanted and things I didn't even know I could dream of. We both got lucky. You found Sophie when she needed you. I found you when I needed you. Sophie found the love she's been missing. Thomas kissed her temple. We're a family now. The three of us. Violet smiled into the darkness. A family. I like that. They sat together under the stars, planning their future, believing in their love, grateful for the chance meeting that had changed everything. Sometimes kindness was its own reward. And sometimes, it led to something even better. Something lasting. Something real. Well, if you're enjoying this story of second chances and unexpected love, please consider subscribing to support more heartwarming content. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment where one person's kindness completely transformed someone's life? Share your stories in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone who needs hope today. December brought cold weather and warm hearts. Thomas, Violet, and Sophie became inseparable. They decorated the house for the holidays together, stringing lights and hanging ornaments while music played. Sophie stood on Thomas's shoulders to place the star on top of the tree while Violet steadied them both, laughing. We look like a real family, Sophie observed, standing back to admire their work. We are a real family, Thomas corrected gently. This is our second Christmas together, and it's going to be wonderful. The learning center was taking shape. Thomas had hired contractors and Violet worked with them daily on the renovations. She brought Sophie along sometimes and the little girl loved seeing her dream come to life. What are you going to name it? Sophie asked one afternoon as they toured the space. Violet thought for a moment. The Bright Futures Learning Center. Because every child deserves a bright future. I love it, Thomas said, surprising them both by showing up with coffee and hot chocolate. It's perfect. They'd fallen into comfortable patterns. Thomas would work from home more often now, his office door open so he could hear Violet and Sophie's lessons. Sometimes Violet would bring Sophie into his office to show him what they'd learned. Thomas would set aside work immediately, giving them his full attention. Evenings were for family dinners, board games, and reading time. Sophie insisted Violet tuck her in along with Thomas, wanting both her favorite people at bedtime. Tell me the story about when Daddy found me with you, Sophie requested one night. Violet glanced at Thomas, who nodded. They'd told her before, but she never tired of it. It was a cold October evening, Violet began, stroking Sophie's hair. I was sitting on the sidewalk when I heard crying. I looked up and saw the bravest little girl, lost but trying so hard to be strong. That's me, Sophie said proudly. That's you. And I thought, I can't leave her alone. So I stayed with you, kept you warm, made sure you were safe. And then your daddy came running around the corner, looking so worried. And then he saw us. Sophie continued the story she knew by heart. And he was so happy I was okay. And he helped you because you helped me. Exactly. Thomas kissed Sophie's forehead. And that's how our family grew, by one very special person. After Sophie fell asleep, Thomas and Violet stood in the hallway, arms around each other. She talks about that night like it's a fairy tale, Violet murmured. It kind of is. The princess got lost, the kind stranger helped, and the prince found them both. Thomas smiled. And they all lived happily ever after. We're not at ever after yet, Violet teased. Give me time. I'm working on it. Thomas kissed her softly. They began appearing in public as a couple. Dinner at nice restaurants, the theater, gallery openings. Thomas's business associates noticed immediately, some with raised eyebrows but most with approval. Thomas was happier than they'd seen him in years. One evening at a charity gala, Thomas introduced Violet to everyone as his girlfriend. She wore a beautiful red dress he'd insisted on buying her, and she looked stunning. Multiple people commented on how good they looked together, how Thomas seemed like a different person. You've changed him, one of his oldest friends said to Violet. I haven't seen him this alive since before Lauren died. Violet found Thomas across the room, their eyes meeting. He smiled and her heart flipped. He's changed me too. We're good for each other. The learning center opening was scheduled for January. Violet hired teachers, ordered supplies, set up scholarship programs. Thomas funded everything, insisting this was an investment in their community's future. Local news did a story on the center, featuring Violet's background and vision. Former teacher who overcame homelessness opens learning center for struggling students. The headline read. Violet was nervous about sharing her story publicly, but Thomas encouraged her. You're going to inspire people. Show them that circumstances don't define you. That kindness and hard work can change everything. The day the story aired, Violet got dozens of messages. People wanting to volunteer, donate, or enroll their children. Some shared their own struggles, thanking her for giving them hope. Look at this, Violet showed Thomas that evening, tears in her eyes. All these people who connected with my story. Your story is powerful. You're powerful. Thomas held her close. I'm so proud of you. They spent Christmas morning as a family. Sophie woke them both at dawn, dragging them to the tree. She'd made gifts for them both, a drawing of their family for Thomas and a card for Violet that said, Best Mama Ever. Violet cried happy tears. Thomas wrapped his arms around both his girls, his heart so full it almost hurt. Later, when Sophie was playing with her new toys, Thomas gave Violet his gift. A delicate necklace with 3 intertwined circles. One for each of us, he explained, fastening it around her neck. We're connected now. Forever. Violet touched the necklace, then kissed him. I love it. I love you. I love you too. More than I thought I could love anyone again. They spent the day cooking, playing games, and watching movies. Sophie fell asleep between them on the couch, happy and secure. Thomas and Violet looked at each other over her head, sharing a smile. This was their life now. This perfect, unexpected, beautiful life they'd built together. That night, after carrying Sophie to bed, Thomas and Violet stood in the kitchen drinking cocoa. I want to ask you something, Thomas said, suddenly nervous. What is it? Move into the main house. Stop staying in the guest house. Be here with us fully. Thomas took her hands. I know it's fast, but this feels right. Sophie wants you here. I want you here. Violet's eyes sparkled. I was hoping you'd ask. Yes. Absolutely yes. They kissed, sealing the decision. Tomorrow Violet would move her things into the main house. Tomorrow they would wake up as a complete family. Tomorrow their new life would truly begin. But tonight they stood together in the quiet kitchen, grateful for chance meetings, for kindness repaid, for love found in unexpected places. Sometimes the best things in life came from the worst moments. And sometimes helping someone else was really helping yourself find what you'd been missing all along. January arrived with cold winds and new beginnings. The learning center was days from opening. Violet had moved into the main house and everything seemed perfect. Too perfect, Violet sometimes thought late at night. Surely something would go wrong. She didn't have to wait long to find out what. Thomas's mother, Catherine Bradford, called one morning announcing she was coming to visit. Thomas tensed immediately. My mother is complicated, he warned Violet. She's traditional, opinionated, and protective of Sophie. Just be yourself. That's all you can do. Catherine arrived in a black car, dressed expensively, her silver hair perfectly styled. She embraced Thomas coolly and looked at Sophie with warmer affection. Then her gaze landed on Violet, who wore a bright blue sweater and jeans. So you're the woman living in my son's house, Catherine said, her tone neutral but her eyes sharp. Mother, this is Violet Johnson. My girlfriend and Sophie's tutor. Thomas put a protective arm around Violet. Violet, my mother, Catherine. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Bradford. Violet extended her hand. Catherine shook it briefly. How convenient that you found a home and a job all at once. The barb was subtle but clear. Violet felt it land but kept her smile steady. Thomas has been very generous. I'm grateful every day. I'm sure you are. Catherine turned to Thomas. Might we speak privately? Thomas looked at Violet apologetically. I'll just be a few minutes. Violet nodded, understanding but hurt. She took Sophie to the playroom, trying to focus on their lesson, but her mind kept drifting to what Catherine might be saying. In Thomas's study, Catherine didn't hold back. What are you thinking? A homeless woman? You barely know her. Catherine paced, agitated. She could be after your money. She's not. Thomas kept his voice calm. Violet is genuine. She's kind, smart, wonderful with Sophie. Sophie needs stability, not some charity case playing house. Stop. Thomas's voice hardened. Violet is not a charity case. She's a skilled teacher who hit hard times. And she's made our lives better in every way. I love her, Mother. Love. Thomas, it's been 3 months. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. Thomas stood firm. Violet is part of our family now. If you can't accept that, then you're welcome to leave. Catherine looked stunned. Thomas rarely stood up to her like this. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection from the woman I love. I need support. Thomas softened slightly. Give her a chance, Mother. Really get to know her. You'll see what I see. Catherine left an hour later, having barely spoken to Violet again. The air in the house felt heavy afterward. She hates me, Violet said quietly that evening. She doesn't know you yet. She'll come around. Thomas held her. Don't let her get to you. But Catherine's words had planted seeds of doubt. Violet lay awake that night wondering if she really belonged here. Was she being selfish, staying in this life she hadn't earned? Would she eventually bring shame or problems to Thomas and Sophie? The next day, Violet overheard another conversation she wasn't meant to hear. Catherine had come back and she was in the garden talking on the phone, unaware Violet was nearby pulling weeds. She was living on the street, Patricia. The street. And now she's moved into his house, playing mother to my granddaughter. What will people say? The scandal of it all. Catherine's voice dripped with disdain. He claims to love her, but it's obviously gratitude and guilt. Once the novelty wears off, he'll see her for what she really is. Someone who needed rescuing. Someone beneath his station. Violet backed away quietly, heart pounding. The words hurt more than they should have because part of her had thought them herself. What if Catherine was right? What if Thomas was just being kind, and eventually he'd realize she wasn't enough for him? That evening, Violet started packing her things. Not all of them, just essentials. A bag in case she needed to leave quickly to make things easier for everyone. Thomas found her in their bedroom, stuffing clothes into a backpack. What are you doing? Violet startled. Just organizing. You're packing. Thomas closed the door. Why? I heard your mother today. On the phone. Violet's voice cracked. She said I'm beneath you. That this is just guilt and gratitude. That I'll bring shame to your family. Thomas's expression darkened. And you believe her? I don't know what to believe. Violet sat on the bed. Thomas, she's right about one thing. I was homeless. I have no family, no money, nothing to bring to this relationship except myself. What if that's not enough? What if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake? Thomas knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Look at me. My mother is wrong. About all of it. This isn't guilt or gratitude. This is love. Real, deep, lasting love. You bring everything to this relationship. Joy, laughter, kindness, patience, intelligence. You've made Sophie bloom. You've made me feel alive again. You're not beneath me. You're my equal in every way that matters. But people will talk. They'll judge you for being with someone like me. Let them talk. I don't care what people think. I care about you, about Sophie, about us. Thomas cupped her face. Please don't leave. Please don't let my mother's small-minded prejudice drive you away. We need you. I need you. Violet's tears fell freely. I'm scared. I'm scared of losing this. Of losing you and Sophie. You won't lose us. We're yours. Forever if you'll have us. Thomas kissed her forehead. Stay. Fight for us. Don't run. Okay. Violet took a shaky breath. Okay. I'll stay. They held each other for a long time. Then Thomas called his mother and told her in no uncertain terms that she needed to apologize to Violet or she wouldn't be welcome in their home anymore. Catherine arrived the next morning, stiff and uncomfortable. She found Violet in the kitchen. I owe you an apology, Catherine said formally. I judged you unfairly. My son loves you and Sophie clearly adores you. That should have been enough for me. Thank you, Violet said quietly. I understand your concern. You want what's best for them. So do I. Catherine studied her for a moment. You really love them, don't you? With all my heart. I'd never do anything to hurt them. Something in Catherine's expression softened. Show me this learning center I've been hearing about. Thomas says you designed it yourself. They spent the morning at the center, Violet explaining her vision and plans. Catherine asked thoughtful questions and by the end she was smiling. This is impressive. You're building something meaningful. Catherine touched Violet's arm. I was wrong about you. Forgive an old woman her protective instincts. There's nothing to forgive. You love your family. That's admirable. Catherine left on better terms and Violet felt the weight lift from her chest. She'd faced the doubt, the fear, the insecurity. And she'd chosen to stay, to fight, to believe in what she and Thomas had built. That night, Sophie was reading a book in the living room while Thomas and Violet cooked dinner together. "You stayed," Thomas said softly. "I stayed." Violet smiled at him. "I'm not running from good things anymore. I'm learning to believe I deserve them." "You do deserve them. You deserve everything good this world has to offer." They kissed, gentle and sure. Outside, winter wind howled, but inside their home, everything was warm and safe and right. The hardest part of love was believing it was real, believing you were worthy of it. Violet was learning that lesson slowly, and Thomas was patient, showing her every day through actions and words that she belonged exactly where she was. Home. Love. Chosen. Forever. The Bright Futures Learning Center opened on a cold January morning, but inside, everything was warm and welcoming. Violet had transformed the space into a haven for learning. Colorful walls, comfortable furniture, books everywhere, and dedicated spaces for different subjects and activities. 20 students enrolled for the first session, all from challenging backgrounds or with learning differences. Violet had assembled a small team of dedicated teachers. She wore a green dress for the opening, her hair styled beautifully, confidence radiating from her. Thomas stood with Sophie at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, both beaming with pride. Local news covered the event. Parents thanked Violet through tears, grateful for a place their children could thrive. "I can't believe this is real," Violet whispered to Thomas as students filed in for the first day. "You made it real. You dreamed it, planned it, built it." Thomas kissed her temple. "I just provided resources. The heart of this place is all you." The first few weeks were chaotic but wonderful. Violet worked long hours, adjusting curriculum, supporting teachers, learning each student's needs. She came home exhausted but glowing. "Tell me about your day," Thomas would say each evening, and Violet would share stories about breakthrough moments, challenges overcome, small victories. Sophie started spending afternoons at the center, helping younger students with reading. She was patient and encouraging, clearly learning from Violet's example. "I want to be a teacher like you when I grow up," Sophie announced one day. Violet's eyes misted. "You'd be a wonderful teacher." February brought Valentine's Day. Thomas planned a special evening, arranging for Sophie to have a sleepover at a friend's house. He made dinner reservations at the city's nicest restaurant and bought Violet a beautiful green dress to match her eyes. "Where are we going?" Violet asked as they got ready. "It's a surprise." Thomas adjusted his tie, watching her in the mirror. She was stunning inside and out. Tonight felt right. He'd been carrying the ring in his pocket for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. The restaurant was elegant and intimate. They sat by the window overlooking the city lights. They talked about the center's success, about Sophie's progress, about their future. "I've been thinking," Thomas said over dessert, "about next steps. For us." Violet's eyes sparkled. "What kind of next steps?" Thomas reached across the table, taking her hand. "The kind where we make this permanent. Where we promise to build a life together, officially." He pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a simple but elegant ring. Violet gasped. "Violet Johnson, you came into our lives when we needed you most. You brought light and love and hope. You made us a family. I want that family to be official. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Violet's face. "Yes. Oh yes. Thomas, yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, then came around the table to kiss her. Other diners applauded, but they barely noticed. They were wrapped in their own perfect moment. "I love you," Violet whispered. "I never thought I'd have this. Love, family, a future worth dreaming about. You deserve all of it and more." Thomas held her close. "We'll build an amazing life together." They drove home late, Violet admiring her ring in the dashboard light. "Should we tell Sophie tomorrow?" "Let's tell her tonight. I can't wait to see her face." They picked Sophie up from her sleepover, despite the late hour. Her friend's parents understood when Thomas explained. Sophie climbed into the car sleepily. "Did you have a good date?" she asked, yawning. "The best," Thomas said. "Violet and I have news." Sophie perked up. "What news?" Violet turned in her seat, holding out her hand. "Your daddy asked me to marry him. And I said yes." Sophie's eyes went wide. Then she squealed with delight. "Really? We're going to be a real family? With a wedding and everything?" "With a wedding and everything," Thomas confirmed. Sophie unbuckled and leaned forward to hug them both. "This is the best thing ever. Can I be in the wedding? Can I wear a pretty dress?" "You can be the flower girl," Violet said. "You'll have the prettiest dress there." They spent the rest of the drive home planning, Sophie full of ideas and excitement. When they finally got her to bed, she was still talking about the wedding. Thomas and Violet stood in their bedroom, still feeling the glow of the evening. "This is really happening," Violet said, looking at her ring. "We're getting married." "We are." Thomas wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Any regrets?" "Not a single one." Violet turned in his arms. "Just gratitude. So much gratitude that you saw me that night. That you chose to help. That you chose to love me. Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done." They kissed, soft and sweet, full of promise for their future together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. They decided on a simple spring wedding, nothing too elaborate. Violet wanted it at the learning center in the courtyard they'd built. "This place represents new beginnings," she explained. "It's perfect for our wedding." Thomas agreed immediately. They planned for late March, giving them time to prepare but not waiting too long. Both of them were eager to make their commitment official. Catherine surprised them by offering to help with planning. She'd warmed to Violet considerably since her initial judgment, especially after seeing the learning center's impact. "You're good for my son and granddaughter," Catherine told Violet one afternoon while they sampled cakes. "I was wrong about you. I hope you can forgive my initial coldness." "Already forgiven," Violet assured her. "You were protecting your family. I understand that." Wedding invitations went out. Violet's former colleagues from her teaching days were thrilled to attend. Thomas's business associates and friends all RSVP'd yes. Everyone wanted to celebrate this love story that had started on a cold October sidewalk. Sophie took her role as flower girl very seriously. She practiced walking slowly and tossing invisible petals around the house. Violet helped her pick out a beautiful red dress that made the little girl's eyes shine. "I'm going to be the best flower girl ever," Sophie declared. "You already are," Violet assured her. Everything was falling into place. The learning center was thriving, their family was growing stronger, and their future looked bright. All because one woman chose kindness on a cold night, and one man chose to return that kindness with love. Sometimes the best love stories started in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the people who saved you ended up being the ones you saved right back. March arrived with warming weather and blooming flowers. The learning center had been open 2 months and was exceeding every expectation. Students were progressing, parents were grateful, and the teaching team Violet built was dedicated and passionate. Violet continued working daily at the center while also planning the wedding. Thomas helped whenever he could, but mostly he trusted Violet's vision and supported her choices. One afternoon, one of the students, a shy 8-year-old boy named Kevin who struggled with reading, had a breakthrough. He read an entire book aloud without help, his face glowing with pride. Violet hugged him, tears in her eyes. "You did it, Kevin. I knew you could." "Miss Violet, you never gave up on me," Kevin said. "Even when I wanted to give up on myself." Thomas, who'd stopped by to bring Violet lunch, witnessed the moment. He saw the impact she had, the lives she was changing. His heart swelled with love and pride. That evening he told her what he'd seen. "You're changing the world one child at a time. That's powerful, Violet. That's a legacy. I just want every kid to know they're capable of more than they think. That their circumstances don't define their potential." Violet leaned against him. "The way you showed me. We showed each other." Thomas kissed her head. "We're better together." Wedding preparations continued. They decided to keep the ceremony small and intimate. Close friends and family only. The reception would be in the learning center's gymnasium, decorated simply but beautifully. Violet found her wedding dress at a small boutique. It was bright red, unconventional but stunning. The moment she put it on, she knew it was right. "Red for new beginnings, for passion, for joy," she told Thomas when she described it, not letting him see it before the wedding. "Red is your color," Thomas agreed. "You'll be beautiful." Catherine hosted a small bridal shower for Violet, inviting women from the learning center and Thomas's circle of friends. It was warm and welcoming, everyone celebrating Violet's happiness. Several women shared how inspired they were by her story, how it gave them hope during their own struggles. "You're making a difference just by being you," one woman told Violet. "Thank you for sharing your journey so openly." Sophie's excitement grew as the wedding approached. She practiced her flower girl duties constantly, perfected her curtsy, and told everyone who would listen about the wedding. 1 week before the ceremony, Thomas and Violet went to the learning center late one evening. The building was quiet and empty. They walked through the classrooms looking at student artwork and projects. "Remember when this was just an idea?" Violet said softly. "When I told you my impossible dream? Nothing's impossible when you work for it." And when you have people who believe in you. Thomas pulled her close. You took this dream and made it reality. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. Maybe it would have taken longer, maybe the path would have been different. But you would have found a way. You're that determined, that strong. They stood in the library, surrounded by books and possibilities. In a few days we'll be married, Violet said. It doesn't feel real sometimes. It's real. I'll spend every day proving it to you. Thomas turned her to face him. You're not the homeless woman I helped anymore. You're the woman I love. The woman I choose. The woman I want to build my future with. Never doubt that. I won't. Not anymore. Violet kissed him. I know where I belong now. With you and Sophie. In this life we're creating together. They locked up the center and drove home, both thinking about the wedding, about their future, about how far they'd come in 6 months. The night before the wedding, Thomas's friends threw him a small bachelor dinner while Violet had a girls' night with Sophie and Catherine. Both gatherings were filled with laughter and love. Are you nervous? Catherine asked Violet as they prepared for bed. Not about marrying Thomas. That's the surest thing in my life. Maybe a little nervous about the ceremony itself. Violet smiled. I want everything to be perfect. It will be. Because it's about love, not perfection. Catherine hugged her, something she'd never done before. Welcome to our family, officially. I'm glad Thomas found you. I'm glad I found him too. Sophie climbed into bed between them. This is our last night before you're officially my mama. I'm already your mama in my heart, Violet assured her. Tomorrow just makes it official. I love you, Mama Violet. I love you too, sweetheart. They fell asleep together, 3 generations of women bound by choice and love, ready for the beautiful day ahead. In his room, Thomas lay awake thinking about tomorrow. About marrying Violet. About the family they'd created. About how one moment of kindness had led to a lifetime of love. He'd lost his first wife and thought he'd never feel whole again. But Violet had shown him that hearts could heal, that new love didn't erase old love, it just added to it. He was grateful beyond words. Tomorrow he would marry the woman who'd saved his daughter and stolen his heart. Tomorrow they would promise forever to each other. Tomorrow their real adventure would begin. He fell asleep smiling, eager for morning to come. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and beautiful. The late March sun warmed the earth, flowers bloomed, and the Bright Futures Learning Center looked like something from a fairy tale. Thomas woke early, too excited to sleep. He checked on Sophie, who was already awake and bouncing with excitement. It's wedding day, Daddy. It is, sweetheart. Are you ready? I've been ready forever. Sophie grinned. Is Mama Violet awake? Let's let her sleep a little longer. She needs rest before the big day. They made breakfast together, Thomas teaching Sophie how to make pancakes. At Catherine's house, where Violet had spent the night, similar excitement buzzed. Violet woke to find Sophie had snuck over and was jumping on the bed. Wake up, wake up. It's your wedding day. Violet laughed, pulling Sophie into a hug. Good morning, flower girl. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Can I see your dress again? Yes, maybe a little, and yes. Violet kissed Sophie's forehead. Let's have breakfast, then we'll start getting ready. The morning passed in a happy blur. Hair and makeup, getting dressed, photos. Catherine helped with last-minute details, surprisingly emotional about the whole day. You look beautiful, Catherine told Violet as she adjusted her veil. Thomas is a lucky man. I'm the lucky one. Violet looked at herself in the mirror. The bright red dress fit perfectly, making her glow. The simple veil added just enough elegance. She looked like herself, just a more polished version. I never thought I'd have this day. You deserve it. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Sophie wore her red dress and carried a small basket for petals. She practiced her walk one more time, serious and focused. Perfect, Violet told her. You're going to be amazing. At the learning center, Thomas waited in the courtyard they'd built. White chairs were set up facing an archway covered in flowers. 50 guests filled the seats, all people who loved and supported them. The gymnasium was decorated for the reception afterward, everything simple but beautiful. Music started. Sophie walked down the aisle first, taking her role seriously, carefully dropping red and white petals. Guests smiled at her concentration. She took her place at the front, beaming at Thomas. Then Violet appeared at the back of the aisle, and Thomas's breath caught. She was radiant in red, her face glowing with joy and love. She walked toward him confidently, no nervousness, just pure happiness. When she reached him, Thomas took her hands. You're beautiful, he whispered. "So are you," she whispered back. The officiant, a friend of Thomas's, began the ceremony. He spoke about unexpected meetings, about kindness leading to love, about family being built through choice as much as blood. Then it was time for vows. Thomas went first. "Violet, 6 months ago you saved my daughter on a cold sidewalk. But really you saved me too. You brought light back into our lives. You showed us what unconditional kindness looks like. You taught us to hope again, to love again, to believe in beautiful things. Today I promise to love you, support you, and cherish you for all our days. I promise to be your partner in building dreams. I promise to always see you, really see you, for the incredible woman you are. You're my best friend, my love, my home. I choose you today and every day after." Violet wiped tears from her eyes, then spoke her vows. "Thomas, that night on the sidewalk I was at my lowest point. I thought my life was over, that I'd never have hope or happiness again. Then you came running around that corner, desperate and scared for your little girl. And instead of just taking her and leaving, you saw me. You really saw me. You chose to help me, and in doing so you gave me my life back. Today I promise to love you and Sophie with everything in me. I promise to be a partner you can count on, a mother Sophie deserves, a wife who will stand beside you through everything. You showed me that kindness matters, that love is real, that second chances exist. I choose you today and always." They exchanged rings, simple bands that matched. When the officiant pronounced them married, they kissed as Sophie cheered and guests applauded. They walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, Sophie holding both their hands, the three of them together. A family official and complete. The reception was joyful and relaxed. Food, music, dancing, laughter. Thomas and Violet's first dance was to a slow, sweet song about coming home. They swayed together, lost in each other, grateful for everything that had led to this moment. "Mrs. Bradford," Thomas murmured. "How does it feel?" "Perfect. Right. Like everything finally makes sense." Violet smiled up at him. "I love you. I love you too. Forever." Sophie cut in halfway through the dance, wanting to dance with both her parents. They made room for her, the three of them dancing together, a family united by love. Guests gave toasts. Catherine spoke about watching Thomas heal and Sophie bloom. A teacher from the Learning Center spoke about Violet's impact on the community. Thomas's business partner joked about how Thomas was a different person now, happier and more present. When it was Violet's turn to speak, she stood with Thomas beside her, Sophie on her other side. 6 months ago I had nothing. I was homeless, hopeless, alone. Then this little girl walked into my life, lost and scared. And I had a choice. I could walk away, focus on my own problems. Or I could help. I chose to help. And that choice changed everything. Because when I chose kindness, this man chose kindness back. He didn't just help me for a day or a week. He gave me a future. He gave me love. He gave me a family. Today isn't just about Thomas and me getting married. It's about what happens when people choose to be kind, to see each other's humanity, to help without expecting anything in return. This learning center exists because of that kindness. Our family exists because of that kindness. And I hope everyone here remembers that your kindness matters. Your choices matter. You might change someone's entire life with a single act of compassion. So thank you all for being here, for supporting us, for believing in second chances and unexpected love stories. And thank you, Thomas, for seeing me, for loving me, for giving me this beautiful life. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Thomas kissed her as guests applauded. The rest of the evening was dancing and celebration. Sophie stayed up past her bedtime, not wanting to miss a moment. Finally, around 10, she started falling asleep on a chair. "Time for bed, sweetheart," Violet said, picking her up. "But I don't want the party to end," Sophie mumbled. "The party will keep going. But flower girls need sleep." Thomas carried her to the car. They drove home together, Sophie asleep in the back, Thomas and Violet holding hands in front. "Best day of my life," Thomas said. "Mine too." Violet looked at her wedding ring, still not quite believing it was real. They got Sophie to bed, then changed out of their wedding clothes. In comfortable pajamas, they sat on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket, looking at the stars. "What are you thinking?" Thomas asked. "I'm thinking about how far we've come. How much has changed. How grateful I am." Violet leaned against him. "And I'm thinking about the future. About all the good things we're going to do together. The kids will help at the center. The family will continue building. The love will keep growing. It's going to be an amazing future. It already is." They sat in comfortable silence, both thinking about the journey that brought them here. From a cold sidewalk to a wedding day. From strangers to family. From hopelessness to hope. A year later, they would celebrate their first anniversary at the Learning Center, now serving over 100 students. Sophie would be thriving in second grade, confident and kind. Violet would be working on expanding the center to serve more kids. Thomas would have shifted his business focus to support more charitable causes. But all of that was still to come. Tonight they just sat together, newlyweds, a family built on kindness and love, proof that the best things in life often came from the most unexpected places. And every time they told their story they emphasized the same thing: kindness matters. Compassion changes lives. And when you choose to help someone, you might just end up saving yourself. The end of one chapter. The beginning of a beautiful forever.